Hi, my name's Troy Regas, and I'm running for Washoe Commissioner District 3. In this November's election, tonight I'm going to address accusations circulated in a Washoe County opinion survey. Not all of them, some of them. I will eventually address all of them, but in tonight's show, just two. I will not avoid them, soften them, or hide behind them, political talking points. I will read every accusation exactly as it appears. Then I will explain what actually happened, correct if it's false or misleading, and provide the important context the survey left out. These accusations were presented to voters without my answers. Tonight, you will hear directly from me. You deserve facts, not political manipulation. Listen to the complete story, examine the evidence, and decide for yourself. First off, I want to address being a felon. I am a felon. And let's talk about that. So in 1984, I was convicted. Well, let's go back. In 1994, I was convicted in a federal RICO trial of a felony that happened in 1984. It was a conspiracy to sell cocaine. And so you know, it says I was a drug dealer. I was not a drug dealer. I was present when something happened, and I was found guilty of it. The person who actually sold the drugs and the person who actually bought the drugs didn't go to jail. They got off. Why did they get off? Because they talked about me. Because my name was more important than anything going on. And it was probably more because of my father, Jay Regas. The police department in Northern Nevada, they didn't like my father, so they came after me. So saying that, it was an 11-month trial. It was a federal RICO trial. It was the second longest trial in Nevada. And I was convicted after that 11-month trial of a conspiracy to sell cocaine. Now, saying that, let's talk about hypocrisy. For instance, the Washoe County Commission Board, three ladies, Mary Luz Garcia, Claire, and Alexis Hill, voted for a felon to get $1.8 million. And when they voted for that felon, women came forward and they were talking about, one woman came forward, and then there were a bunch of letters with it, and they were talking about what happened to them under that person's care. And it was not a good thing. It was the lady who talked about it cried a lot. And I'm not going to mention her name because those things are hard to talk about. Saying that, these three women voted for this felon 2 years ago with women coming forward to get 1.8 million. So to me, that's hypocrisy. You're mad at me from a felony from 42 years ago, but hey, let's give this guy a second chance. And I want to talk about the second chance too. I did go to prison and I served my time. I was given a 5-year sentence, which was the maximum that I could receive with a 5-year special parole. And I'm going to explain that to you what that is in the federal system. So these are pre-1986 guidelines, which meant that it was under the parole commission. So you didn't go in front of a judge after you were sentenced. You went in front of the parole commissioner. And so I served my time. I got out. I think I did about 2.5 years on 5 years. You're parole eligible, and it was probably 2 3/4 years, and that was a max of that sentence. After that, you're parole eligible. So when I got out on parole, I came home to Reno, Nevada, and I decided to join a motorcycle club. That club was called the Reno Renegades. And when I joined that club, all of a sudden, the parole department decided that I couldn't associate with anyone in that club, just a blanket association. Non-association is what they call it. They called me up in their office. They put a letter in front of me, and they basically said, don't associate with these people. And of course, none of these people had done anything illegal. In other words, none of them were convicted of a crime. None of them were had felonies, etc. And according to my conditions when I got out, I was not supposed to associate with a felon. I also had no conditions as far as reporting money, etc. And the reason I had none of that is because I didn't owe any money to like court. I didn't owe any money to like victim impact. I didn't owe any money to, let's say, child support or anything that would make it so I had to report my income to the federal parole department. So that was something I didn't have to do. So shortly after I got out, I want to say it was probably, I think I got out in March of 96, and probably about the fall of 96, I bought a house. And I didn't buy the house for myself. I bought it to be a clubhouse for the Reno Renegades, which eventually, in our eyes, was going to be the Hells Angel Motorcycle Club. And that made a lot of people mad in this town. They were upset about it. So I buy the house. About a week goes by, and I get called into the parole department. And when I get called into the parole department, I had a parole officer named Adelinda Urias Goldstein, and she slides a piece of paper in front of me and she says, fill this out. And basically, it was a financial agreement, and she wanted to know about the house I had just purchased because they knew already what the house was going to be for. The reason I bought the house is I had the best credit. Even though I went to prison, I actually was successful, had a job my whole life from the age of 14 till this time. I believe at this time I'm in my early 30s, and I had no problem financing a house. Matter of fact, it was an easy deal. What I did is I went in front of the house was being sold in a federal bankruptcy, and it was part of the Mustang Joe Conforti sale. And so bids were for the house, and I want to say at the time I went and got an appraisal for it. It was worth $200,000. I bid $200,000. The next closest bid was about $80,000. And of course, that ended up being a big fiasco because as soon as I went into the court to get approved to buy the house, the U.S. attorney or whatever he was stood up and said, "We can't sell this guy a house. You know, he's bad, blah, blah, blah." And of course, the judge, he goes, "Well, I'm a bankruptcy judge." And he goes, "I only have one rule here." He goes, "I really don't care about whatever you're talking about. The only thing I care about is that the creditors get the most money." And he's offering $200,000 for the house, and the next closest is 80. That means 120,000 goes to the creditors. Boom, Troy gets the house. So I bought the house. Within a month of that purchase, and my parole officer telling me to fill out a paperwork, I was in jail again. And the reason I was in jail was for buying a house. Even though I had a federal bankruptcy approval, even though the loan was completely legal, they decided to put me in jail. And then they ad booked me, and I think they charged me for association also. And the way that worked is you went in front of a parole commissioner and you didn't get to go in front of a judge. So I went in front of a parole commissioner. I believe his name, he was from Chevy Chase, Maryland, and his name was like John Lawhead or something like that. So he flies in, we have a hearing in the Washoe County Detention Center, and they found out that the house I bought legally. So he kind of said, "Well, I think you're guilty, but I'm going to let that one go." And then the picture of another member was not a felon, and he decided that the guy they were talking about was a felon, and therefore, even though he wasn't in the picture, they were going to violate me anyways, and they gave me 7 months in a federal prison. So from there, I went to Stafford, Arizona. I was in prison for about a month in the county jail. So let's say about 6 months in Stafford, Arizona. So if you know anything about Stafford, Arizona, they had like bunks. So the unit I was in had, I think, 12 people to a bunk. I was one of the 12, and those people were like-minded. So on the street, they give you a non-association, which means you can't associate with any bikers. But when they put you in prison, they lock you up with bikers. It's like a really weird deal, right? You're not allowed to associate, but hey, let's lock them up with bikers, right? So they locked me up with these 6 bikers and or 12, 11 bikers, and I believe that one was a Hell's Angel, one was a prospect, a hang around, and the rest were from other motorcycle clubs uh, from around the United States. And so we ate together, we slept together, we showered in the same place, we had a toilet in the same place, but we basically lived together for that 6 months. We went to the yard together, whatever, because when you're kind of housed together, you kind of live together. So I did my time, and then prior to getting out, uh, the case manager called me in his office, and he put a letter in front of me, and he said, basically, you're not going to associate with any motorcycle clubs, and if you do, we're not going to let you out of prison. And so I was kind of sitting there with my case manager, and I go, look, I've done my time, and you can't just make up a crime before I get out, right? He goes, no. He goes, well, what they're going to do when you get home, if you do this, is they're going to violate you. I go, so they're just going to make this stuff up above and beyond my parole conditions that I got in on, and they're going to send me back to prison. So I was like, okay, well then I guess I'll be back in prison, because if you're telling me I can't do something that's legal, I'm definitely going to do it. Okay, so I get out. I go from there to the airport on the BOP in a bus. And when that happens, I get to the airport and I see a Christmas card. I want to say it's about December 7th. So on the Christmas card, I write to some of the guys I just got out of jail with, and I put, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Troy Regas. And I mail that card from Phoenix Airport to Stafford, Arizona, and then I fly home to my home, which I lived in Sparks at the time. So I'm at home for about 7 days, and sure enough, bang, bang, bang on my door. Open the door. There's Sparks Police, Sheriff's Department, dog catcher, because I had a German Shepherd, so they'd bring the dog catcher. And out of the crowd, there's about 20 of them. Here comes my parole officer, and she has a manila envelope, and she opens it up like this, and she puts it in front of me, and she goes, did you sign that? And so I grab it off, and I look at it, and it's the actual Christmas card that I sent when I was traveling home from the prison. And I said, yeah, I signed it. And I picked it up, looked at it, I put it back in her little folder. And uh, she goes, well, we're going to violate you. And I go, what are you going to violate me for? And she goes, well, we're going to violate you for association. And I was like, okay. So I sent a Christmas card, which means correspondence. And you can look it up in a dictionary. Like, I knew the difference between association and correspondence. And she goes, well, we don't care. We're going to violate you anyways. So at this time, I write, or my attorney and me, right before I go back to prison, we write what they call a writ of mandamus, which is an extraordinary writ when somebody affects your life in an extraordinary way. And of course, I get 3 more months in prison. And I do my time, I get out, and I'm at home. And the writ we wrote is going back and forth, right? Back and forth between, we would write a motion, they would write a motion, the judge would ask them to respond, back and forth. Let's say it went back and forth probably about 5 times. But in the interim time of that, I get called by the parole department again, And they're like, hey, were you at the clubhouse? So this is the part I want to explain to you. Even though I bought the clubhouse, I wasn't allowed at the clubhouse. According to the paperwork they gave me, if I went within 1,000 feet of it, I was going to go back to jail. Simply for driving by, I would go back to prison. So all these things they're doing are things that I'm not doing wrong, but it's things they decided that they're going to violate me and or persecute me over. So about, I don't know, 6 months goes by again, and my brother drives my truck, and he's there on a February late at night, and or maybe it's another month, but he's there late at night. And when he's there, an FBI agent identifies him at like midnight in February with no moon, in windows that are so dark you can't see, as being me. And so now I'm going to get violated again and get more time. And so once again, we would have this little kangaroo court in Washoe County Jail. They would bring me in cuffs. They would never take me out of the cuffs. I would sit in there. They would have the parole department. They would have 4 or 5 sheriffs. They would have a dog. And I'm sitting there, and sure enough, here's John Lawhead, and he's going to violate me again for being at the clubhouse, a house which I had purchased, even though it belonged to the club, a house I had purchased, and they're going to throw me back in jail. So they do. They throw me back in jail. I want to say they give me another 7 months. So I go and do that 7 months. And during this time, this appeal, this writ of mandamus, has gone back and forth, and it's kind of looking really good for me. And eventually the judge rules that they violated my rights and that they shouldn't put me in prison at all, that everything they did was illegal. So now I've done 17 months in a prison for doing nothing wrong because they didn't like my lifestyle, basically. They didn't like what I was doing. And by the way, I was doing nothing illegal. I had a job. I was making money. I had a business. I ran a business, and everything I was doing was legal. So eventually, well, no, I win, and then I call up the parole department, and I'm like, hey, I need to have a meeting with you guys. And they're like, why? And I'm like, well, I'd like to discuss your job and what you're supposed to do and what you don't do and how you do it. And I really wanted to talk to them about these non-associations that they give people because they're really dangerous. In other words, they decide who you can hang out with, who you can talk to, and they decide whether it's good or bad because they're smarter than you. And a lot of people, when they get out of prison, they have a network that helps them, or they have friends. Well, they don't like your friends. They don't like people you associate with. So they decide who you can hang out with and who you can't hang out with, right? So, so I get out. I'm on parole. The parole department won't talk to me. When I call them, they won't talk to me because they're afraid I'm suing them. And so I'm not allowed to travel. I'm trying to get. I think this is 2002, and I want to say it's about this time of year because it's right before Sturgis. And so I've been on parole since 96. I get violated, and it's 2000. I'm probably on parole for about a year where they won't even talk to me. In other words, like they won't meet with me, they won't talk with me, they don't come and see me. None of that happens, right? And so when they do that, thanks for the water. When they do that, eventually they call me and they're like, hey, we want to make a deal with you. And by the way, under the old law, you have parole, and then you have the special parole. On a special parole under the old law, it's 5 years. You could do 3 years good, and if you get violated for a DUI and you go back and do 6 months, you have 4.5 years to do. So that 5-year special you could do for basically 20 years, right? That's the way they keep that hook into you. So they call my attorney, and they tell my attorney basically that they want to, if I won't sue them, they'll kick me off parole. And at the time, I want to sue them, and I don't want to be kicked off parole. I'm kind of more or less like, they messed with my life, and now I want to mess with them. So I jump on my motorcycle, and I'm driving somewhere, and my attorney calls me, and he's like, and his name was Larry Wishart, and he's a great guy. He's been attorney here for probably 40 plus years. He calls me up and he goes, Troy, come to my office. And he was like a father to me. So when he told me that, I turned my motorcycle around. I went to his office and I went upstairs and he sat me down and he goes, look, he goes, they're going to kick you off parole. You're not going to be off parole. You're going to be off parole. You don't have to worry about this. These cops are never going to leave you alone. They're always going to be after you. They're going to do everything they can to put you away, just like they have this last 3 times. And I was like, so I want to sue him. And he goes, no, Troy. He goes, everything we've ever done, I've always listened to what you have to say. And this time I'm going to tell you, you're going to do what I'm telling you to do. And you're going to accept this deal. So I accept the deal. And I want to say about another 2 or 3 months go by. And that's probably in about June or July. And they call me up and they go, hey, can you meet us over on Pyramid and Nugget Avenue? So I pull up. I'm on my motorcycle. It's like 4 guys in an undercover car. And the guy who was the parole department, his name was Chris DeRicchio. So I pull up on my motorcycle. He rolls down his window about halfway. And he says to me, he goes, look, he goes, I can't give you a pass to go to Sturgis because you're not allowed to go to Sturgis if you're on parole. That's the way it works. He goes, but look, here's your paper. You're off parole. You can do whatever you want. We never want to see or talk to you again. Like, enjoy your life, take off. And I think he says something about you can go drink or you could go do whatever. And I'm like, well, I don't drink and I don't do drugs. So, I really don't care about that. So I think I just continue to work, and then I get other kinds of harassment. Oh, wait, there's another incident I got to talk about before that. So in 1997, we go from being the Reno Renegades to becoming the Hells Angels. And I'm still not allowed at the house, and I'm on parole. And so I get called down to the parole department, and they say basically what happens is if you've ever seen the Hells Angel Clubhouse, there's a really big sign on one wall. It's like two stories tall and 2 stories wide, right? And it's a famous house. It used to belong to Joe Conforti. And you can't miss the sign. So I go into the parole office, and I'm with my brother. And this guy from Maryland was there. His name was John Lawhead, and he's sitting down with me, and they have the marshals in the background. And he says to me, he says, you're going to go take that sign down. And I'm going to go into the sign a little bit before that. When they first get the sign wasn't ever meant to go onto the house. It was never, they didn't make the sign to put it on the side of the house. They made the sign because they just became Hells Angels, and they were going to go to the Redwood Run, which is a big motorcycle run in California. And they were going to put this sign between 2 trees, and they were going to let everyone know that now Nevada had Hells Angels. And what happens, and I only know this because they tell me, is they lay it out on the lawn at the clubhouse, and the sign is so big that they're having a hard time like seeing it or viewing it or like, seeing the potential of the sign. So they decide to hang it on the side of the clubhouse, right? And so if you ever look at that sign, it's a canvas sign on the side of the house. It's not painted on the house. And so they hang the sign up, and within 30 minutes, here comes some sheriffs from Washoe County, and here comes probably code enforcement, something like that. And they actually red tag the sign, and it's up like less than an hour. It's red tagged. So that's how they're watching everybody. So they have a court case over the sign. And it's a little court case over in Sparks. It's a county case, but it's, I want to say it's in Sparks Court. So what they do is, I believe their attorney is Arnie Brock. And so what they do is they basically go to court to argue about whether the sign can stay up or if it has to come down according to Washoe County. And they win. Well, let's talk about what happens in court first. So what happens in court basically is the attorney comes in and he basically yells and screams for about 15 minutes about how they can't have the sign up. And then it's our turn and they ask Arnie Brock, what's your response? And Arnie Brock's response is, it's the First Amendment. That's it. That's his whole response. And the judge goes, okay, anything else? And he goes, no, First Amendment. Sign stays up. And the prosecutor jumps up and yells and screams for 5 or 6 more minutes. And the judge goes, okay, you done? And it goes back to Arnie Brock. And once again, the judge says, what's your argument? He goes, you've already heard my argument. It's First Amendment. So the judge rules on it. And he says, yeah, First Amendment prevails. Sign stays up. Ticket goes away. Washoe County can't tell them to take it down. So, and by the way, I'm not allowed within 1,000 feet of this house or I go to jail. Just for simply driving by on McCarran, I could go to jail. So about a week or two go by and I get a call from the parole department and they're like, come down to the parole department, which is in the federal building on Virginia Street. You know, with the one with the fish that looks like it has holes through it. Well, that's your Constitution when you're on parole. It's a Constitution with holes everywhere, right? Because these people don't believe that you have any rights. So I go in, I sit down, John Lawhead's across from me, and there's marshals behind him. And he says, you're going to take that sign down. And I kind of chuckle at him a little bit. And I go, what do you mean I'm going to take that sign down? And he goes, you're going to go to the clubhouse and you're going to take that sign down. And I laugh again. And I go, no, I'm not going to take that sign down. I'm not allowed at that house. And if I go to that house, I'll be arrested. And he goes, well, we're going to lift your condition Friday at noon until Saturday at noon. And in that time period, you're going to go take that sign down. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to take that sign down. And he goes, oh, yeah, you're going to take that sign down. And if you don't by Saturday at noon, you're going to go to prison. And I'm like, wow. So once again, here they go. I'm going to go to prison again, right? So what happens is I think I jump on my bike and I'm heading home. My brother's with me. And Larry Wishart calls me. And I used to wear my phone in my helmet. So when it would ring, I'd just push a button and I'd talk to him. And he's like, Troy, come talk to me. And I'm like, no, I have somewhere to go. I'm going to go. And he's like, no, come talk to me. So I turn around and I go talk to him. Like, after all, Larry was like a father to me. And when I turn around, I go into his office and he goes, hey, the parole department just called me. And I'm like, yeah, they're going to throw me in jail on Saturday. And he goes, well, I have an idea. I go, okay, what's your idea, Larry? Like, he goes, well, I'm your attorney. And I go, yes, you are. And he goes, Arnie Brock is their attorney. I go, yes, he is. He's their attorney. He goes, well, I'm going to write a letter to Arnie Brock right now, and I'm going to ask them to take the sign down so you don't go to prison. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, Larry. I don't think they're going to take a legal sign down because I'm being blackmailed into taking it down. It's kind of, you know, to us, it's kind of like a freedom thing. And now your government sitting on top of you and they're basically, you know, they lost the case. So now they're going to throw me in jail over the sign. I go, you know, I don't think that's going to happen. And he goes, okay, well, anyways, and this is like on a Wednesday. He goes, I'm going to write him a letter and we'll see how it goes. I go, okay, Larry, write your letter. He writes the letter. He sends it to Arnie Brock. And then I get a call from, I believe, my brother later in the day. Or no, I was with my brother. And my brother's like, "Wow, you're going to go to jail again." And I'm like, "Yeah, Sean, I'm probably going to go to prison again." And I go, "I'm sure they're going to give me another 7 months." And he goes, "Wow, that sucks." And I'm like, "Yeah, what do you do, right?" And but later on, I get a call, or Sean calls me again, and he goes, "Hey," and we would do this once in a while. They would jump in David's motorhome, and we would all drive. They would drive out to Pyramid, and I would meet them, and we'd have a meeting in the motorhome. So we did. We're out on the Pyramid Highway, and I meet them, and all the members are in the motorhome. And I walk in, and they're all like, "Wow, you're going to go to jail again, huh?" And I'm like, "Yeah, probably going to go to jail again." And they go, "Well, what do you think about this vote?" And I go, "Well, if it was me, I would vote to go to jail." I go, I just can't understand why we would bend over for the government because they're blackmailing us, right? And by the way, I'm still under appeal too. And so they all vote right there, and they vote, I'm going to go to jail. So they call their attorney the next morning, and they basically say, "We voted to keep the sign up." And so they tell Larry. Larry calls the parole department, and he says, "Well, they're not going to take the sign down." And so the parole department still is telling me, or actually, they write a letter to Larry, and I'll show you that letter on Facebook. And it basically says that they lift my parole conditions from Friday at 12 till Saturday at 12, and I'm going to go take that sign down. And if I don't take that sign down, I'm going to go to prison after that. And so I pretty much assume that I'm going to prison. But this is the first time they actually don't violate me, but they do give me this letter, and I'll show it to you. When you read it, you'll think, "Wow, right? This is just uh, people that work for your government deciding that they are going to bend the laws and rules to throw me in prison over them not getting their way." So they tell the parole department. It goes through that weekend. Monday, I'm still not in jail, which I think my attorney tells him basically, we'll just let my client know he'll turn himself in to prison and he'll go to jail, right? Go to prison. But they don't. And I want to say not very much time goes by, and I win the appeal, the writ of mandamus, and then everything they did is illegal, right? So once I win that, uh, then eventually 3 months later I get off parole and I could do whatever I want. But it doesn't mean that the harassment goes away. It just gets harder, and we'll talk about those on other days. And that's where I'm going to end that part of the story. Now I want to address another thing that's said in this poll. It was said that the Hells Angels have a swastika on their patch. I can tell you with absolute certainty that that is an absolute lie. The Hells Angels don't wear swastikas. We have clubs in Germany, and that is against um, law in Germany. And so if we wear it here, it could affect them, and they could go to prison in there because of what we wear here under the anti-Semitic laws. But when we go to Washoe County Commission, there is a club that has what they call is the bent cross, and what Mary Lou's and what Alexis Hill call a swastika. So it's a difference of opinion between them. It's not a difference of opinion between me, because I believe the branded few. I don't buy into what she says or they say on the dais. I think they're wrong. And the reason I think that is because I've dealt with these guys for 30 years, and they have a card and they hand it out, and it means, and I'm going to post one on my Facebook, and they've had these cards for over 30 years, and it means like love, life, liberty. Each arm means something. And I don't know the saying because it's not my thing. And even during these hearings, one of their 45-year members named Indian, who's an actual Native American Indian, goes in and testifies about that broken cross. And he tells the commission that his mom and his grandma used to actually weave that into baskets before World War II. And a matter of fact, I believe those baskets are in your Nevada museum with that broken cross that they call the swastika that has been adopted by Hitler to have different meanings. So I'm going to believe what they tell me, and I'm not going to believe what she tells me. But now she's trying to accuse me and someone in my club of having this, and that is absolutely not true, and it's wrong. And I think what we will do in the future too is we're going to show you the Branded Few testimony of them talking about their broken cross and what it means to them, that club, that charter who's been in Reno for more than 50 years with that on their back. And, you know, it is controversial the way it looks. I agree with that. I've had conversations with them about that. I have a brother that's a Jewish. And when I first saw it, I kind of thought the same thing. And my brother actually told me what it was because I was upset about it and was going to do something about it. He goes, "No, Troy." He explained the whole thing to me. And I'm a person of reason, so I listened to him. And I've always believed that to be correct, what that club says about what they wear on their back. Not only that, they have every nationality of members in that club. They have Indians, they have brown people, they've had black people, they have white people, and they're not racist in any way like that thing would represent. As a matter of fact, I think I even went outside and I had this conversation with Mary Luz Garcia, and we discussed it, and she changed her mind about it. But, you know, now that I'm running against her, I'm sure she hasn't. She's now going back to it. She's like convicting me of this again in this poll, which I think is, I mean, if that's what she's going to do, that's her thing. But I'm going to rebut it just so everyone understands what the truth is here about my felony and about this broken cross. And the other thing I think she says is, and we'll post exactly what she says on my Vote for Troy Regas Facebook. We'll post it exactly the way it's written on both these things because it makes it seem like they're current, they just happened, and that somehow I'm a bad person, right? And so if people want to judge me for having a felony 42 from something I did 42 years ago, well, just to tell you, I'm 63. I'm going to be 64 years old. I was 22 when this happened. That was 40 years ago. And I like to always tell people I didn't get out and ask for second chances. I got out, went back to work, and I proved who I was in my life. I've lived my life according to rules and laws and God's laws, etc. So I have nothing to hide from. If they want to throw it out there, let them, right? And then the last thing I want to talk about here, and there's other things in this thing that they talk about that I am going to address too. This isn't all of them. There's about 3 more. But I think to address the other ones, I need a whole nother hour. And I want to remind the listeners what I stand for. I stand for trust. I stand for loyalty. I stand for duty, honor, truth, transparency, accountability, courage. You'll notice a lot of things I've done in my life. I've had a lot of courage in doing them. I've never thought twice. I've never ran away from anything. I run towards it. And so if I'm guilty of anything, I guess I'm guilty of that. And I'm going to, in the next 3 months, I'm going to tell you all kinds of stories of things I've stood up for people in Northern Nevada about. Finally, I want to tell everyone again, I'm running for Washoe County Commissioner, District 3, and the election is November. I'm hoping to defeat the incumbent, who is a democratic socialist like Mandami, and she's a DEI expert. And, to me, DEI means racism. They like to blame you for racism because you're white, but it actually is racism because, depending on what color you are, you get in and other people don't. That's racism. I've lived a life most politicians could never understand. I've experienced government power personally, and I was never broken. I've had them come at me so many ways that I'm going to tell you, and you're going to also see some law enforcement stand up and tell you what they've noticed in the last 20 years of what I've done. They're going to tell you about going through my garbage, that they've had a wire on me for years. So I probably had a wire on me since I was 16, 18 years old. And yet they've never found me doing anything illegal on the phone and in person. I'm never afraid to question government officials, expose waste, demand answers, and stand up for citizens. In District 3, you're going to find out that I'm going to stand up for you. I am like you, after all. I'm from the street. There's not much difference between me and you. I'm for the citizens. I'm not asking you to accept any anonymous political accusation. I'm asking you to examine the facts, listen to my answers, and judge me by my complete record and the man I am today. District 3 deserves a commissioner who will answer difficult questions, confront government misconduct, and stand his ground when powerful people apply pressure. If you want a commissioner who cannot be bought, intimidated, or controlled, I respectfully ask for you to vote this November for me. Again, my name is Troy Regas, and I'm running for Washoe County Commission District 3. And I want to go on and talk about a little more, too. I still have about, 12 minutes here. I'm not a politician. I'm not going to be a politician. I don't want to be a politician. I want to be a citizen standing with other citizens, and I want to do things that citizens need. In other words, when you have a vote come up, and it's Sierra Reflections, and you have 2,000 people in the audience, and they're against what Washoe County is going to vote for, I'm not going to be those 3 commissioners that vote against these 2,000 people. I'm going to be that commissioner that stands up and votes for those people, the 2,000 people in the room. So you had 3 commissioners that did an end around Claire, Mary Luz Garcia, and you had what the third one? Her name is Alexis Hill. They voted. They got paid. If you look at their donations, you'll see they get paid from attorneys. They get paid from developers, and they vote for these things. Do you know that thing is what it's built on? I mean, it's terrible, right? But they voted for it, and it's there's no infrastructure, there's not enough sewage, there's no roads. So what are they looking for? They're looking for revenue. Everything's revenue with them, taxes and revenue. We'll raise taxes and revenue, right? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be for the people. I'm against taxes, more and more and more. Why? I think Nevada has the third, or Washoe County. Let's talk about Washoe County. Washoe County has the 3rd highest gas tax in the United States, behind California. Washoe County. We pay more in gas taxes than 47 other states, and they just raised it again a nickel. How many grandparents and how many people out there can afford more cost? And hey, they're not done. They're eventually going to raise your property tax 3%. They're going to go after EVs and they're going to tax them. And then they're going to build everything they can, whether the infrastructure is there or not. They're going to build it so they can get revenue. And listen, I'm for business. I'm a business person, small business. I've worked in small business for 50 years. I am for business, but I think it has to be reasonable. I think it can't be on the people's back. And I think the people definitely need uh, uh, some restraint, roads built, infrastructure, and everything prior. But there's more I need to talk about here. Let's see, what else? Okay, I talked about that. Sorry, this hour kind of went a little shorter than I thought it would. There's something, yeah, there's something I'd like to talk about. Guilt by association. Do you know that your government uh, will find you guilty because of who you associate with? It's called non-associations, etc. You know how many people have been put in jail or prison for association? Can you imagine? Just because you know someone, you go to jail. That's kind of what's going on here. Uh, they're saying things. I'm guilty by association, right? Like this thing with the bent cross. Well, listen, I'm not guilty of wearing that. My club isn't guilty of wearing that. And it's not good that it's thrown out in that context. Now, saying that, I will be back in a week to do another podcast or radio show that I'm doing now. We're going to put it on my Facebook, which is Vote Troy Regas. I would like people to join. Go and look at Vote Troy Regas on Facebook and see what's going on. See what I'm talking about. And you're going to see all the kinds of things that I'm going to do for the citizens of Sun Valley, the citizens of Sparks, and the citizens of Reno. But uh, you guys and me, we're going to be linked at the hip, and I'm going to do everything I can for you guys, right? And I appreciate being on the radio, and thanks for listening to my show. Okay?